Joining us this morning, it is the 13th of October 2021, tarehe 13 mwezi wa 10 mwaka 2021. This is a Wednesday, Siasa Wednesday edition, and so we are happy to have you. As usual, I request that when you join in, please like. When you like, we get to know that you're watching us, and after like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. This is the TACON that begins now. Siasa Wednesday of the 13th of October 2021, tarehe 13 mwezi wa 10 mwaka 2021. Natumai kwamba uko salama, mamka vizuri na kutayari kuweza kungangana na kutakol siku yako ya leo. Pia kabla tujaanza, I want to give in apologies from Gladys Bochole. Leo asubuhi ameamka kama sikii vizuri. She got unwell. Anasema ni kama ameamka mpota sauti imepotea fua. So we are hoping that she'll be safe and she'll be okay. So she's offered an apologies and she'll not be joining us this morning as we had announced or we told you. So kwa hivyo tutakuwa na BICHACHE ambaye pia ni communication strategist, na pia tuko na DUNCAN OJWANG ambaye ni wakili pale, na pia tutakuwa na David Maina kutoka UDA ofisi kwenye studio hapa. Hao ngano wengine watajumuika na sisi online pale. Kwa hivyo naenda kuzungumzia mada muhimu sana. Today we'll be majorly having a conversation around the ruling by the ICJ yesterday on the maritime dispute between Kenya and Somalia, and it looks like Kenya has lost it to Somalia. Or yesterday I saw OJWANG wrote me a message that we'll be having a lot of maritime experts by today morning on Facebook. So I'm one of those who I don't really know much what the ruling was all about, but I think somehow we didn't get the case as we had wished. So tutazungumzia ambo yetu ya maritime dispute between Somalia and Kenya, and also be having a conversation around the political landscape in the country. What is changing? And they say the more things change, the more they remain the same. Anyway, it's a morning. I request that you join in, please like. When you like, we get to know you're watching us, and after like, please share. Ukishaona hapa mtu mwingine nafasi ya kuweza kutazama broadcast, tafadhali tuweze kujumuika na sisi, tuambie pia unatupigia simu kutoka wapi. Haya, sawa, kama kawaida lazima tuende mbele za Mungu tuombe, alafu tukirudi basi tunakuja kuwapa salamu zenu haraka upesi, alafu basi tuende kwenye kazi ya leo, kwenye mada ya leo. Mighty Father, we come before you this morning. We worship you, glorify your name. Thank you for another opportunity to be alive. We thank you for this program. We thank you for the conversation that we are about to have. Even as we have it, may it edify the fabric of this country. For we pray, trusting and believing. Amen. Haya. Munga Alita continue morning team tackle tuning in from Montreal, Canada. Munga Alita continue has moved from the UK now. She's in the Montreal. He is in the Montreal, Canada. So Montreal, Canada, good to be part of this morning Siasa Wednesday edition. Asante sana. Emmanuel Sare, my brother, good to see you, my brother. Good morning, good people. Good morning. Kate Kipchumba Singohe, tuned in. Asante sana. Kigen Kipgen or I'll get to have you. Emmanuel Benz, asante sana. Emmanuel Sare, Mamusha Jet Kibri Reds, Leonard Sare, Honorable Moses Keberenji Ganeta. Mkeni mumeamushwa. Naona Betty Tor, good morning. Good morning to you, Kigen. And someone tuned in from Nairobi. Don Maverick, good morning. Tuned in from Upper Hill. Asante sana. Janet Auma, good morning. Good morning to you. Steven Flamson Tomaga, tika tunakupata sawa sawa. Nasikia ICJ imenyoa boda yetu sawa sawa. Hey, nasikia maji yamechotwa, lakini maji ni yao. Wamesema samaki ni yenu. Sijui sasa mtaweka wapi samaki. Jack Limo anasema good morning bwana Bitok. Ni Jack Limo kutoka Suswa Narok, tuko ndani kabisa. Asante sana. Anita Chestera, good morning. Tuned in from Langata. Good morning to you, Anita. Good to see you. Adenongati, good morning. Tuned in. Rono Ian, good morning. Tackle Edwin Kiprop Marakwet locked. Evans comment, good morning. Bitok wishing Honorable Gladys a quick recovery. Pole sana wa mheshimiwa Gladys Bochole. Natumai ya kwamba atakuwa safi zaidi. DKJ boy, good morning bro, tuko ndani. Chris Oguku Gesemba anasema Wasingishu will soon be out potato for William Samoei Ruto, with the aspirants jostling for the governor and senator role. Stemming a fallout should be united UDA's priority. Nick Juguna, good to see you. Nick from Janja Safari, someone tuned in. Wish her well. Asante sana. Sike Kanishas, good morning. Julius Rono tuned in from Kiambu. Asante sana. Ben KE, morning incoming MP of Ben, say hi to the tackle team. Asante sana Ben, good to see you. Jola Rama, good morning to you, Chairman Dashboard Edition. Lelachero, to great job. Bitoka wana buy you lunch. Asante sana bwana. Asante sana Lelachero teach. Nisikumia message hapo inbox. Lunch nakulanga sana. Haya. James Wena Match BICHACHE is here. Let's count how many times he uses the word tanga tanga. Start counting. Ian, good morning guys. By today's tackle be lit. Asante Dixon be word quick recovery to Honorable Shole. Asante sana. Fidelis Kiprop locked in already. Muhammad Abdullah Habdi, good morning live from Isiolo Torochi. Duncan, good morning. Salimia Honorable Boss. Ni mgonjwa tumuombe. Langat Kiprona Dixon, good morning. Hapa ni Mombasa. Asante sana. Simon Korsai, morning. Simon from Narok. James Jones Mwenda, good morning from Meru. Asante sana. Tuende masokoni tulipa madeni haraka upesi, haraka mbio, alafu turudi kwenye kazi ya siku. Leo tutaanza na Rex Roofing. Rex Roofing inakupa nafasi ya kuweza kufanya nyumba yako iko safi zaidi, kwa share zaidi. Rex Roofing gives you an opportunity to roof with the best products in the market. Quality roofing shingles, stone coated tiles, and even if you're doing a flat roof, you can do waterproofing, APP waterproofing, and also waterproofing liquid, all from Rex Roofing. Pia ukisha jenga na uko na paa lako ambayo imeng'ara zaidi, and you want to harvest water, you can harvest water 100% safe for consumption using your PVC water harvesting gutters from Rex Roofing. Rex Roofing roofs your world. I can guarantee you, give you a product guarantee of 50 years. I don't know where you'll be in the next 50 years, but I can guarantee you that your roof will still be there with you. If only you're going to roof with Rex Roofing products, that is quality roofing shingles and also stone coated tiles. I can guarantee you that in the next 50 years, your roof will still be there. And also giving you 10 years of workmanship guarantee. In 10 years, if anything happens to your roof and has been installed by Rex Roofing, if anything happens to your roof in 10 years, you'll be able to be there on the ground and ensure that we fix it. So we're giving you 10 years workmanship guarantee, and we're giving you 50 years product guarantee. So in the next 50 years, your roof will still be there. I can guarantee you that. And also within 10 years, we give you a workmanship guarantee. We're also giving you a 10% discount on all waterproofing materials. If you're going to do waterproofing on your roof, we're going to give you 10%, or on even your floor and your walls and all that. You're going to give you 10% discounts this October. It's a discount month. That is customer service week, which has been extended for the whole month. 10% discount on waterproofing products. Haya, pia Maritime Motors inakupa nafasi ya kuweza kuagiza gari kwa njia rahisi zaidi na kwa bei nafuu. You can save up to 300,000 Kenya shillings when you import directly with Maritime Motors. Maritime Motors gives you an opportunity to import directly, and you can save up to 300,000 Kenyan shillings when you import with Maritime Motors. Also gives you an opportunity to invest your money. If you have some surplus money somewhere and you want to invest, you can earn up to 15% returns on the money that you invest. Maritime Motors as well gives you an opportunity to save for two reasons. If you're saving for a unit, you save 50% of the value of the unit. Ama gari 50%, asilimia 50 ya value ya gari ambao unataka kuinunua, alafu hiyo nyingine unaweza kuilipia mdogo mdogo ukianza kuendesha gari. Alafu pia if you're saving as an investment, you can save your money and Maritime Motors Sacco, and you get to earn up to 15% returns as well on your investment. Alafu pia Maritime Driving Academy pia wanakupa nafasi ya kuweza kuwa driver maridadi. Good drivers don't happen by accident. They are trained only at Maridadi Driving Academy. Maridadi Motors, move your status. Aya, asante sana. Wangwana ni kama tayari washaingia pale. So nitaenda kwao shortly, lakini wacha niangalia wangwana kidogo, nimalizane na wangwana wangu hapa. Sam Sirma, good morning boss. Salimia panel leo, lazima nichangie umswada. Karibu sana ndugu yangu. Simu iko wazi. Manathan, I'm locked up kwa Mayu, looking forward to hear from the best. Rongoe Danasa locked in from Kericho. Larry Kimonori, good morning. Jira Bito tuning in from Kericho. Sir John Ngetuny, good to see you my brother. John Ngetuny, loud and clear from the Lone Star State. Asante sana. Janet Chepkurui, good morning. Tuned in. Maria Skipkurui, good morning, watching live from Nairobi West. Onim Kafuata Brown, good morning to tackle. Ezeulu Ola Habon Kamodho, good morning from Kikuyu. Aya, asante. Ndugu yangu Mariko, good morning sir, how are you? We request to see your face.
You request to see my face?
Yes, of course.
My face is patented in the handsome records of men.
Allah.
Patented face.
Ukoje?
It must be viewed on once royalties are paid.
Bana, you have to see you, bana, because we cannot operate without your face.
I'm like Brad Pitt.
This is a video broadcast, Baba.
Sir, give me 2 minutes.
Okay. Ojwang.
Huh?
Good morning.
How are you?
How are you, Daktari?
I'm fine. How are you doing, sir?
Salama sana, where's your face?
I didn't know face is part of the deal.
It is. Huh?
But I'm grabbing it and posting it immediately.
Please bring your face. You need to see your face here.
How many people are seeing my face? Is it just you? Or,
the people usually see it every day.
How many seeing do I see?
The people usually see it every day when you're here.
Oh.
Yeah.
Let me call my makeup artist. But yeah. All right. So I'm ready.
Okay. We need to see you. Oh, yeah. Where are you? Patikana? Very good. Yeah. Ojwang, so you first of all, you have to say hello to these guys.
Greetings, everybody. Again, fellow Kenyans. Thanks for the prayer talk. Times are hard, but God is in charge.
Looks like we need more prayers even as we move forward.
Yeah, I just want to encourage us that because I'm seeing people are getting fatigue. It's called the COVID fatigue. Please don't keep hope alive. Life is moving on. Let us be safe, but let us do life because God is in charge. So asante bitok.
As life does us.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. So the ruling was made yesterday by ICJ on the maritime dispute between Kenya and Somalia. I don't know. I tried to be an expert yesterday. Then I was corrected. I was told we didn't lose maritime borders. I don't know how true that is. But also maybe you guys can help us break it down as well on, on what actually is going on. What's the maritime dispute all about? And what is the ICJ judgment all about as well?
Just a little background that at some point Kenya and Somalia were talking about the borders. Of course, Somali calls it grabbed land. We are calling it disputed land. So you can see the difference. And from how a journalist describe that dispute, you can tell whether they are leaning towards Kenya or Somalia. Is it disputed or it's grabbed land? So we were talking at some point. Somali felt that Kenya walked out of the table, and when Kenya walked out of the table, actually, they felt it was Kenya took the talk for granted. They did not confirm the meeting that was to happen in Nairobi. The team from Mogadishu called, requested for that meeting. Kenya did not respond. Again, there was a follow-up for that meeting. Kenya, again, failed at that crucial juncture to send their team. Then Somalia are arguing that they were left with no choice but to go to International Court of Justice. The International Court of Justice, they filed. Once they filed, Kenya became, again, a little concerned. Went to dispute two things: the jurisdiction of ICJ, which I think there was a ruling that no, Kenya gave ICJ a blanket check that when there is any dispute we cannot resolve, then as a sovereign we have given you power to hear it. And so you have what I think some call automatic jurisdiction, not restricted. But then Kenya came back to say, no, we had an agreement with Somalia on how to share and resolve this issue. And so that must be entered in court. And therefore, according to us, there is no dispute. That again became a main issue because Kenya was saying there is an agreement. The Somali refused that there is an agreement. Again, that was a very big fight between Kenya and Somali. Kenya said, no, this is how we agreed to resolve this issue. Somalia said, no, we didn't resolve. ICJ, move on, and hear the dispute as novel. Again, we lost on that. ICJ came and said, no, we have looked at what Kenya you are calling was your agreement with Somali. There is no agreement here. So then it became clear that we were moving to the hearing on merit in this case. At that point, I think Kenya, having had lost on jurisdiction, having had lost on the agreement that we thought we had with Somali, Kenya resolved, and as any other country, because of national interest, to lobby, trying to talk to Somali, but it appears that at that point Somali was categorical that no, you are not behaving on the table. We are not going back to talking. Let us duke it out in the court, ICJ. So the Kenya's response in brief have been, embracing the court later. And you see, once you embrace the court, and then when you want to run from the court, but you have already submitted your jurisdiction, you have given your reply. You have even hired your experts from the US. It is a failure of diplomacy. Our diplomacy was not well aligned. I think Kenya as a state was not well advised. And the foreign affair failed us. That is what we get when consultancy and advice is given based on whom you know and not experts. Remember, at some point, our member of parliament from that place went to even talk to Somali. And we have Kenya Somalis of high ranking who could even do this shadow diplomacy. But no, we don't trust them. There are some people who must do it. There is a kickback for some. So we mismanaged it. At some point, remember, there was a demonstration where Kenya came with a countermeasure saying you cannot come to Kenya. That demonstration was flagged by Kenya Somalis in London who said, wait a minute, there is something being sold here and we believe it's Kenya territory.
Yeah.
And so, it kind of showed the hand of Britain, because though that company was, I don't remember very well, was Norwegian, but the ancestry or the citizenship of the owner was British. So we don't know who is who clearly at this point. And so Kenya should not assume that they know Britain is aligned to us, US is aligned to us. We don't know that.
Okay.
Secondly, now when you will come to the merit, I'm just giving you the general overview, we'll come to the merit. I have not read the judgment very well, but there is things I will point out here.
Okay.
But you can also see from the reaction of the head of state, assuming that was the official statement, that we are not very happy with the ruling as a government, and we have and they have clearly indicated that we are not going to comply. Again, that comes to the nature, as I conclude, the nature of international law. Does it have power to compel? To what extent can it compel? Of course, international law is enforced by the mutuality of states working together. It is not totally archaic law. It has a way of compelling. Lest Kenyans forget how our top leaders were compelled by ICC and cooperated until they were cleared. If they had a choice, they would not have turned up. But there's a lot of soft law and underhand pressure, because now if Kenya have this issue and with this ruling, if somebody is to support your rogue position, they will want something from you, even if it is Britain. So you have less bargaining, and they will take from you something for you to be protected. Remember, Middle East and the Arab country are of very much importance also to the US, and so there is a lot of bargaining. Remember, our supreme position, I think, our supreme position in dominating this region is also very much rivaled by Uganda and other countries who really admire us, even Tanzania. So if they find that you have a baggage, or an ally find that you are a baggage, they can easily shift to a country that don't have much baggage. So so we can talk, and I know Ms. BICHACHE is here, Mr. BICHACHE is here. We will talk of how Kenya got here, what Kenya can do, But of all what they can do, it's one president of US who said, walk softly but carry a big stick. Should we talk as a superpower? Are we a superpower? Do we have that long stretch of porous border with Somali? Somali don't even have established government, but we know they can enter our country anytime. Should we talk as if we don't share a border with them? Where should we be? Did our diplomacy fail? The good act that Kenya have done to Somali, including starting from the days of President Moi, which is really pushing for peace in that region, which is including housing and hosting the refugees if necessary, including almost being the big brother. Did we assume so much?
And hold your phone towards your face, Ojwang. You are seeing only your chin.
I'm seeing myself on my screen. My immediate team is producing me live from my house. So I don't use phones.
Okay.
So if you look at our foreign affairs policy, are we losing our shine? Are we at our glory days when we were the very respected in the region? Did we have a post-conflict strategy, or we were known as the peacekeepers, and we thought those people will remain there, and we didn't have a policy of moving with them to trade, whether it is moving with Somali to trade, whether it's moving to South Sudan, which I'm seeing also some funny problem there. So we assume we will always be the peacekeepers, they will remain conflicted, we will give them protection, and they will respect us as a big brother. Do we have a policy that engage them in terms of now, let us trade and partnership? Is it inadequacy of our foreign policy? Is it the strategy? But again, a national interest takes sovereign. International relations come as a means to achieve what you want. Strong countries can defy international law. I don't know whether we are that strong or we are a paper tiger at this point. I'm not sure, but we'll get to the merits. Let me just leave that as that with that general background. Thank you.
All right. Mark Bichachi.
Yes.
All right. Maybe you can also give us an overview of what you think about the case. That was, just an explainer on what actually the whole thing is. What's the conflict? Where are we? And just before we even get to merits and demerits, and also an overview on the statement that has been made by the president, that is ready to defend, first of all, the territory of this nation. And also he has said that they reject in totality the ruling by the ICJ. And maybe you can also tell us, what is ICJ and why are we there?
Okay, so thanks for this. First and foremost, the ICJ is a court created by the dint of the United Nations. That is a court that is supposed to have compulsory membership from all countries, but only 73 have membership, and Kenya is one of those countries that signed up to the ICJ with caveats. Part of those caveats were that maritime issues and other issues which at the time had not been settled would not be part of the ICJ jurisdiction.
Oh, okay.
To put it in perspective.
Oh, it was declared on the table.
Yes. To put it in perspective, this was simply because that, number one, we need to remember that when Kenya gained independence and much of Africa gained independence, our boundaries, most countries signed to agree on where the boundaries is, except Somalia. Somalia never signed as to where the boundary was. And if you want to understand the history, you've got to start with the Shifter War, when Somalia was basically fighting to say that large chunks of Kenya were part of Somalia and large chunks of Ethiopia as well. So I think it's called irredeventism. Prof. OJWANG knows the term better, but it's basically the ideology that Somalia believes in expanding its boundaries for a long time. If you look at even some maps coming out of Somalia and Somali propagandists, you will find them including large parts of Kenya and large parts of Ethiopia. So this has always been the ideology that their land needs to expand. And that is why you find also there are many Kenyan Somalis who identify more with Somalia. So this is not just about the border, it's also about the history that Somalia has had in trying to expand its territory into Kenya. Now, to put it in perspective, in 1979, Daniel Toroitich arap Moi did reach out, 1979 to 1982, did reach out to the Somali government to declare where that border point was and how it should be drawn. Unfortunately, Somalia went into war. In 2003 and 4, again, President Kibaki, through then Foreign Affairs Minister, the Senator for Bungoma, what's his name?
Moses Masika Wetangula.
Wetangula, yes, Moses Wetangula, did paper to Somalia. Somalia again didn't have a sitting government. In 2009, the Kenya government again reached out under Kibaki still to find an amicable solution to this. Somalia signed a document because at this time they had a prime minister, but the rain began to beat us when Farmajo came to power, because Farmajo said he's not going to recognize that particular agreement that they had done with the prime minister then. Now, when Kenya was busy looking for an amicable solution, Somalia behind Kenya's back was going to the ICJ. The question is, why were they going to the ICJ? And the reasons are quite a few. Number one, it is because they had implanted one of their allies, and by I don't mean a Somali just by origin, I mean an ally of President Farmajo. And what did this ally do? He went to the court, and he is on record from the 80s to the 90s about his philosophy on maritime issues. So it was not an issue. He became president of the court, and incidentally, that's the same time when Farmajo decided to go behind Kenya's back. When Kenya was waiting in Nairobi, literally, for a delegation from Somalia, he had at the same time sent a delegation to The Hague to file this case. Secondly, Somalia has consistently been used as a proxy. Why is it a proxy? It's a proxy because you can imagine a country that cannot afford its own parliament, cannot afford to run elections. How are they able to field 22 lawyers at The Hague for this period of time? How are they able to finance this? Now, how they're able to finance it is you got to look at the oil blocks and who is interested from the Turkish and other countries which are interested in getting those oil blocks for cheap. Now, 2 years ago, we know that a company associated with Farmajo and some certain UK individuals sold those oil blocks, and that is when Kenya complained. And when Kenya went to the Hague and made very concrete arguments as to why the Somali judge should have recused himself, as to why this the international law states that unless you've completed local negotiations, you cannot go to the international court. So, for example, Somalia ignored the IGAD, they ignored the African Union, ignored all of those different dispute resolution mechanisms and went straight to The Hague because they knew of how the courts were stacked against Kenya. Now, Dr. OJWANG has said that Kenya had failed completely, but I can tell him to go please try playing football when you're trying to score at the top of Mount Kenya and you are in the Rift Valley, and tell me how many goals you will score. So the courts were completely stacked against us, and it would have been pointless, in my view, for us to waste good money after bad money to try and win a case which we knew ab initio was against us. And let me just tell you how ridiculous this is. The country with the largest coastline in Africa is Somalia. Why would Somalia need even a millimeter more when it already has the largest? If you look at the border of the coastline of Somalia and the coastline of Kenya, Somalia is 7 times, hear my words, 7 times larger than the coastline of Kenya. Even in the simplest thoughts of equality, how would that work? Number 2, Kenya had already negotiated successfully with Tanzania. And if you look at the eastern coast of the Indian Ocean, the African eastern coast, all of the lines run according to the latitudes. They are horizontal. It is only Somalia that wanted an equidistant line. And why did they want this? It is simply because of greed. You cannot then say, if Kenya was then to negotiate and use the same ruling that they've gotten from the ICJ to apply to the Tanzanian side, then we would own Pemba Island, we would own part of Zanzibar. It is illogical. So this is simply, if whichever way you look at it, if you move from the law, you come down to simple logic. There is no way your father can divide land unfairly between three brothers, that now Kenya is basically becomes landlocked, though we call it sea-locked, where any ship can't get into Kenyan waters because it has to pass through Somali-infested waters. Secondly, what does Somalia have to actually implement this decision? What will they do? What will they bring their pirates to the border? As in, what exactly will Somalia do? It's nonsensical. Kenya has our fishermen fish there. We have military bases there. Come on, it's ridiculous. But even beyond that, let us ask ourselves the very basic question. What if Kenya decided to do what Somalia is doing and talk to Jubaland and ask them to join Kenya? You know, so Somalia is playing a greedy game. Farmajo, we know, Farmajo, his prime ministers, many of his ministers are dual citizens. They are citizens of other countries. And it is these other countries which they are citizens of that are using them as agents to access oil blocks. This is very simple. It's about accessing oil blocks on the cheap, because Kenyan law and Kenyan systems will ensure they will not get it on the cheap. This, my friend, is the whole issue. Now, should we obey the ICJ rules? Well, I call it a suggestion. They've given us a suggestion, and suggestions should be ignored.
Where is Migingo, Bichachi? Where is Migingo? Even as you guys do all this brinkmanship, where is Migingo?
You know, let me tell
Kenyans have been whipped like children there in Uganda. Migingo.
You know, let me tell you, the Migingo issue is something that we need to treat with the same kind of strength we are showing here. But the good thing is, the difference between Migingo is this, and Migingo and where we are here with Somalia, is that the Ugandans are willing to talk.
Okay.
You get that? That is the issue.
So should we ignore or should we not? Then I give to David also to give us an overview. Ignore.
No, let me tell you, there are three disputes we cannot ignore. There is the Elemi Triangle, between the border between South Sudan, Ethiopia, and Kenya. That has been in dispute for many years. In fact, if you look at the maps of the years, you will see that little part at the top of Kenya, there's always, it seems to change. Then number two, we've got Migingo Island. Number three, we've got the Somali Maritime border. So none of these issues are not alive to the country. There are things we pursue, but as you understand, these things are delicate. And unfortunately, a state like South Sudan is a state in civil war, just like Somalia here in civil war, and trying to take our sea from us. You know, but also to answer OJWANG, he made a misnomer as the luster of Kenya's international diplomacy waned. I must remind him that Kenya this month is chairing the United Nations Security Council. I must remind him that the President of the Republic of Kenya is meeting with Robinette Biden, President of the United States, today. So we need to understand that Kenya is, I think Kenya, being the bigger brother, has been quite magnanimous to its neighbors. You know, our economy, my friend, is twice the size of Tanzania, 3 times the size of Uganda, 10 times the size of Rwanda. Our budget can run the whole of these countries. We can pay everybody.
But you cannot finance yourself.
No, but you see, let me tell you.
You're lifting yourself by the bucket.
Even the United States can't finance itself. Let's not say that Kenya, because it borrows, can't finance itself. The very fact that it can borrow tells you that it has the capacity. You try going to the bank, and the bank looks at your at your payslip and thinks
more
you're
like our loan can fund these countries.
The point I'm making is Kenya has not lost its
It's diplomatic last.
stuff.
Okay.
I think what has changed between, if you look at Moi and how he used to deal with our neighbors, and Uhuru and Kibaki, it's very interesting. Uhuru and Kibaki are more peaceable, they are more diplomatic. Moi, my friend, would have sent a few tanks there even before the ruling. And that's the main difference, that Uhuru Kenyatta is quite, he seems to be very good at diplomacy. Look at how he was treated in Barbados. Look at how many awards he gets every time he talks to international people. But I don't think Somalia is a thing of talking. I think Somali is, the Somali, not the people, the Somali state understands the gun better than the pen.
All right. David Miner, good morning.
Morning.
Good to see you. Your camera is just straight ahead of you.
Thank you for the invite to talk. On this issue of maritime dispute with Somalia, I think that these issues are bound to happen because we live under colonial marks. And the way our continent was divided in 1884 is bound to bring problems because of how we arrange ourselves. Ethnically, we see all this cross-border conflict, and now it's extended to our waters. So eventually we'll need African solutions to these problems. But I believe that we should begin with diplomacy. We have conflicts with practically all our neighbors, and I don't believe that we should take a belligerent stance towards Somalia at this point. Over and above what's going on locally, over and above what's going on between Kenya and Somalia, there are great power competition. There's a great power competition in the world. China is trying to take over as a superpower. The US is on defense mode. Countries in the Middle East are trying to see where they fit into all this. And that's why we see the influence of Middle Eastern countries like Turkey, the UAE, Saudi Arabia in Somalia. So we don't understand the full implications of this conflict. And I believe that diplomacy is the way forward, because we could take an aggressive stance. And what happens if maybe we haven't seen a hidden hand in this conflict? So as has been mentioned, under Moi's time, things would have gone a bit differently. But I believe Moi depended on diplomacy first. There was a lot of professionalism in the Foreign Affairs Ministry, because you'd find that even low positions were held by PhDs. So by the time Moi was carrying the stick, probably all other options had been exhausted. And I don't believe Kenya and Somalia should really take the conflict this far, because as countries where we are, we cannot even manufacture toilet paper in our own countries. How then shall we go and have a conflict about oil? We don't have working refineries. So we'll have to bring in foreigners to deal with all of this. And what if they tell us that this oil of yours is not valuable? We get pennies to the dollar on something that's supposed to change our economies. And as we're talking about oil, let's ask ourselves, where is this Turkana oil today? And in this conflict, let's also make sure that we understand that this oil, if this oil is causing such conflicts at this point, are we able to absorb it as a country? Or is this going to be a resource curse? We see in countries like Nigeria that the government is very unresponsive to the needs of the citizens, even though they're taxpayers, because they get the bulk of their money from oil revenues and not from taxes. So that means that they don't really care what the taxpayers have to say.
Is our diplomatic luster fading away?
Yes, it is, unfortunately. I think we've been too obsessed with local politics. Our national agenda has been hijacked by BBI and the Uhuru Kenyatta succession. So I think that some things were left up in the air, and these are some of the consequences that we have of politicizing everything in our country.
Okay. I can see also we have a gentleman called Hilary Kirwa. Hilary Kirwa, do you mind giving us an overview as well, so that we can delve straight into the merits and demerits, and as well we'll also need to have a conversation around the ally implications, because I think Turkey as well almost made a very subtle statement on its plan to start with Somalia. So I don't know, the international landscape as well, how are things going to to twist, or are they going to the weights on the scale are they going to as well to weigh in? Hilary Kirwa, are you there? I can see you online, but I can't. All right, we need to see your face.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning to you. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm new, Gerald, in this platform, and I request that I follow keenly to
All right.
the experts, so that I get a point to discuss next time.
All right. Okay. OJWANG, I'd want to get back to you. So get back to Mark. I think you had something to say as well. What is Okay, Mark, I see you're trying to speak. Unmute yourself.
Yes, before you go to OJWANG, I just want to correct my brother who just spoke before,
Yeah.
saying that Kenya needs to be diplomatic, saying that Kenya can't produce toilet paper and things like that. First, we produce our own toilet paper. I don't like Kenyans defacing Kenyans. We have terrorists to do that. Let's not terrorize our own country. Number two, let us also understand that if Kenya had lost its international luster, it would not be chairing the United Nations Security Council. Number two, let's also be very clear that Kenya stands at a different space than the countries surrounding us. All the countries surrounding us are least developed countries. Least. Kenya is a developing country, which means we are in a different category.
Yes.
So we cannot compare. This is not apples and apples here. This is apples and oranges. So let us be careful how we craft our nation. We cannot be our own terrorists talking badly about our country. We have issues, yes, but let's not say we cannot produce toilet paper. Say we even produce cars. The Mobius is made here. We assemble Ford cars here. We assemble VW cars here. Let's be nice to ourselves.
Okay, OJWANG. Unmute yourself, sir.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Even before we get to the merit, and I will also admit that I've really not dug into this ruling, because I'm seeing they are giving these miles. That will require an engineer to actually now sit and not a lawyer to tell us how much we have lost and quantify. But I'm seeing they have given nautical miles and nautical miles. That's not a job for a lawyer to calculate.
Okay.
So we will need, it will take some time for somebody to sit with that formula and see or quantify what we have lost. At this point, I don't think any knee-jerk reaction could help. But there is maybe two views. There's the nationalistic view, and there's the global view.
Yeah.
There is whether we are Kenyans or Africans and Kenyans or global citizens, and maybe not so much consumed with this territorial border. After all, Africa is also moving towards a united Africa, and where we can trade and do more with ourselves.
Okay.
So the spirit of Pan-Africanism that the OAU, the AU, the Lagos Convention, that the Europeans who gave us borders are even moving to European Union, and we are remaining stuck with the idea that they gave us. Some of the, if you ask at Kenya, Masai, he'll tell you this Kenya-Tanzania border, the border crossed me. I didn't cross the border. They came and found me crossing to the other side, willy-nilly as I walked. So there is a little bit of being stuck up with what we were given, even after those who gave it to us are seeing the value in thinking big and not small, in terms of where the globalization and where the world is going, that we are better off working together than walking alone. That is not to say that Kenya have not tried to do that. Kenya actually, the respect which was coming to Kenya was not coming because they were carrying a big stick and a gun. It was that they were actually, as BICHACHE is saying, in all sense, a big brother, a concerned brother who knew the value of a stable Somali, where we can now sell our product, where we can also get a market and we can access. That is why we were also doing all we can for South Sudan. The idea of when a monkey cannot reach the ripest banana, they say, after all, they are not ripe. This relationship is important. Okay? You are big for what? You are big because you can dominate those markets. And we also know what is happening in the region. Even with the UN, Djibouti gave us a run for our money, and Djibouti is such a tiny country. The votes were so close. And even that obligation that we took in to chair the United Nations and be part of the non-permanent member, not permanent, but non-permanent. It's a tokenism that African countries are given those things to be whatever, but we have the permanent members, which we know how the Security Council make decision that out of the 7 members, I don't know whether there are 5, the Security Council cannot act until the permanent members all agree. So you can chair the meeting all you want, but you are not permanent members. So let us not, be those slaves. They're saying during slavery, the slave of this farm will fight the slave of the other farm in terms of whose master is richer than the other one. We are all pawns in the international game. Maybe a little better than Somali, but we are small actors. We are all depending on our bigger brothers and allies, and that is why any loss put us into a precarious condition, because now whoever wants to come and protect us will say, I'm doing this against ICJ. I also want to add that, remember the ICJ, and I've been to the Peace Palace, I've been to ICJ, where those days when we were going for ICC. I'm telling you that when I was so concerned that I must see this ICC, the map was showing me that it is a building here. I found some white guy mowing their lawn. I asked him, could you please tell me where is the court? Because it surely cannot be in somebody's compound. And the guy told me, no, that sounds like a name you'll find by the beach there. And true to it, right next door was the ICC. And the neighbor does not even know. So international law more else care and live for the small countries like Kenya. When we talk of ICC and we have named all our children ICGC and ICJ, it's because we don't have power, so we rely on law. And I don't think Kenya have wind itself of that. Finally, look at Kenya. Kenya is hosting United Nations. So Kenya is a beneficiary of international law system or international system and structure. We know that Nairobi money and a big part of Nairobi shine is because we are hosting, is it UNEP, UNDP headquarters in the world for the UN. We have a tab section of UN office in Nairobi, unlike other countries. So Kenya actually is talking from both sides of the mouth and forgetting that they are right deep and embedded into the international system. When you chair Security Council, which under Chapter 7, I believe their role is to maintain world peace, and you are saying you are going to ignore ICJ, which was started in 1946, before you even held your independence, before you even started talking of we need our independence. ICJ was here. And ICJ, one of the obligations and the statute there is the Court of United Nations, unlike even the ICC. And the ICJ decide according to international law. What ICJ say is international law. It's not an opinion. It is not a suggestion. They are the authoritative body that proclaims to the world what is international law. So their ruling and their understanding of what is happening is actually telling us what is international law on this maritime dispute. Finally, I think that when we look at Kenya, a country like Morocco have decided to ignore the Western Sahara and insisted on the Western Sahara. We have different situations, but you cannot blame a country. There is no requirement. Exhaustion of local remedy, as BICHACHE is saying, is not exhausting negotiation with your neighbor. It is going to your court and going before there. And even in that court, we have gone to cases of international court where we have stated that it is futile And the international court have accepted that jurisdiction that, yeah, you didn't need to exhaust Kenya courts if it is going to be futile and clearly there is no chance of being had. But exhaustion of local remedy does not come when you are dealing with another nation which is sovereign, as weak as you think, because we know that if we categorize weak or strong, then Kenya might not even fit at the hem of the straw. So weak is relative. We are also weak to another one. They are also weak, but under international law, there is the equality of states. There is respecting sovereignty of the state and respecting integrity of states, so that even whether you are America, you talk about Somali and recognizing that as tiny as it is, it's a sovereign. And so at the end of the day, I think that Kenya need to do better diplomacy. Our diplomacy is failing. There are various methods and models of undertaking diplomacy. We are losing, and maybe not losing, others are gaining, and they are becoming competitive. The nature of the struggle that President Moi dealt with is different. These are now countries that can also negotiate because they are sovereign, just like we are sovereigns. So we must understand where we are. We must look at where we are. Right now, when our president is talking, the world is also waiting to hear his statement on the Pandora. So we are at the weakest point diplomatically, and at the first spokesperson and at the representative of Kenya, he's at a point where the integrity and the nini is weakened. Whether he's called to the White House to speak about dispute or to answer also about what is this big deal about Pandora, where is your statement, we don't know. But when you have something against you don't shine, and that is the truth. So Kenya, I agree, need to stop chest thumping. We need to be strategic. Passion and praxis will not change and does not turn to international relation. Look at the Morocco Western Sahara case for years that have dragged. But we'll get another chance to get into what the court actually said on this.
Okay.
If it's not important, why is the president giving a statement a fortnight? If it's not important, why try to stop them? Can you force somebody? Courts are there to settle disputes. So if somebody say, I don't find good faith, I don't want to talk to you, let us go to court, and ICJ is there, you cannot fault them for being a bad neighbor. And of course, there's enough blame to go around. But Kenya just felt, because I've carried your refugees, because I am bigger than life, you just need to let me be. And right now, the chaos that, IGAD is not a dispute mechanism. It's a local arrangement. It's not a court. So we have ICJ court. And whether you call it not binding 100 times, it is pronouncing what is international law. And Kenya cannot afford to be a rogue international law, a country that borrows, a country that live from hand to mouth, and from Chinese pocket. Well, Chinese also don't care about international law, so maybe they are good ally. But we are at a weekend.
Okay. All right. Mark, do you have any rebuttal? Recourse?
I need to take an injection of some patriotism and inject it to Dr. OJWANG and tell him to understand a few things. Number one, he needs to understand that Somalia is not the issue here. The issue is that Kenya is being bullied. If you want to know who calls the tune, ask who pays the piper and who has paid for Somalia to do all of these things. No, you say Kenya borrows. Somalia can't even afford to borrow. What taxes does Somalia have to speak of that they were able to do this case? So this is a proxy war first and foremost, Dr. OJWANG. You must understand that this is neo-colonialism being practiced, as you put it, by former slaves fighting for their colonial masters. This is a sad day, not for Kenya, but for Africa as a whole. Number two, we must be very, very clear that Kenya had no choice because this is not a court that we were going to where we stood a chance. And I have been following this case from the beginning. I am one of the few Kenyans who's spoken about this issue 3 years ago. In fact, my video was circulated in Somalia, trying to make me an enemy of the state. And I have no fear, and I will reiterate that this is an abuse and affront. And I'm not speaking about the very real fact that the Somali government has been a guest of Nairobi for many, many, many years. We fostered and birthed this child, but this child is trying to abuse the mother, and it cannot be allowed to happen. Have we tried diplomatic means? I will remind the listeners, Dr. OJWANG and everybody else, that just a year and a half ago, the President of the Republic of Kenya met with the President of Somalia and had a very diplomatic talk with him. What did Somalia release as a statement the next day? So don't say that Kenya has had hubris. I think Kenya has been too magnanimous, and that is why we are here. Number two, you cannot say that international law, when it steps all over the toes of Kenya, that should be allowed to fly. Number one, I say that Kenya had withdrawn and exempted itself from certain matters in the ICJ from the beginning. Why was this important? And I want Dr. OJWANG to go back to his record and check. There's only one country that never ratified the colonial borders, and that country is Somalia, which is why Somalia to this day has had expansionist agendas from the beginning. So let's not kid ourselves here. We're not talking with someone who's come to court with clean hands. This is someone who said, Bwana Gerald Bitok, I want to steal your studio. I am coming to steal your studio. 3 of your microphones are mine. And the judge is also called BICHACHE, and the judge has said microphones belong to BICHACHEs. Now, how would you go to such a court? I'm not even trying to do propaganda. These are provable facts. The judge wrote a paper when he was doing research for the UN, and he gave his opinion. So
the reason is propaganda, sir. There were 14 judges, and the cases I've done my count. 10 judges agreed. So if there is one Somali judge, and we know that the judges they are appointed not from their nationality but from their expertise. So how come out of 14 judges? We can only say one was a Somalian, therefore we don't nini. I mean, why see a squirrel and not see an elephant? How about
Dr. OJWANG, I allowed you to finish. So let me tell you why.
Sorry, apology.
It is not propaganda. You see, when a judge sits among 14 members, let me take football as an analogy. If you followed football corruption, the people who corrupt football do not need to pay every player. They just make sure one player influences the other 10, the other 7. This is how it works. The truth of the matter is this. Listen, any person, I wish Gerald would put up the borders. Put the borders from Mozambique to Tanzania, from Tanzania to Kenya, from Kenya to Somalia.
You can put it on the screen.
How big Somalia's border is. And then tell me, common sense, because you cannot tell me the law ignores common sense.
Get me the borders on the screen.
Tell me how that makes sense. In fact, Gerald, let me send you the picture.
Please send me
on
WhatsApp.
I
can send to my technical guys.
With your technical guys, because it's just a question of fairness. It's a question of fairness. And you cannot argue that it is okay to split a child in half because 2 mothers have cried for the same child. That is not wisdom, it is not justice, it is not fair. If you look at the map I've just sent you, look at how small it is, look at what Mozambique has done with Tanzania, look at what South Africa has done, look at Tanzania and Kenya, you realize that there is some thought, some fairness. And where was the ICJ when all these other borders were being done? You see, the principle of equidistance is a principle that is applied across the world because it seemed fair there. But if you look at Africa and you look at our coastlines and you look at Lamu and you look at all these different islands and things that we have just off that boundary, you realize it's not fair. We're not just disenfranchising our nation. You know, those of us who live in Nairobi may not feel it, but the truth of the matter is the fishermen there feel it. The people who are boats there feel it. It is not a joking matter. And number two, which Somali activity is there? The truth is there is none. There is none. Somalia has never used those waters from the beginning. It is now that when they discovered there is oil, after they've sold all of theirs, that they did a deal with these Western powers, Turkey being one of them, to come and sell our oil blocks. So now we cannot sit here and defend and say simply because we are in Tangatanga or Kieleweke or whatever, and decide that we're not going to defend our country. Because whichever president you choose, this is an issue he's going to have to deal with. You know. So for me, I have no doubt in my mind that this is unfair, this is uncouth, and every Kenyan worth his blood, worth the soil that he stands on, should stand behind our right as defined by the Constitution 2010, by the way, as to what our sovereign territory is. You have no idea what this would mean to generations from now. If you have children like me, that's who you need to look out for. Stop looking for political points here. This has nothing to do with the person of Uhuru Kenyatta, because if you're going to say it's about Uhuru Kenyatta and the account that was opened in Panama with his mother, if that's what you want to make it about, then where was Daniel? No, in fact, where was Jomo Kenyatta when these boundaries were being done? What happened? And I gave you the history of the Shifter War. Okay, so we fought with Somalia. We had a war with Somalia concerning our borders in the 60s. Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, when he filed this document, Mwai Kibaki twice. So you want to tell me and reduce it to an Uhuru Kenyatta issue? Come on, let's not be short-sighted here. Uhuru Kenyatta has 1 year. When he'll be president forever. We need to realize that this is a Kenyan issue for all kinds of Kenyans. It does not matter whether you are in the wheelbarrow or Azimio la Umoja, or you are trying to rescue Kenya with Martha Karua. The problem is the same. And let me tell you, the moment we allow an inch of Kenya to be lost because of the petty squabbles we want to say about recognizing international law. And when we talk about oil and oil blocks, let me be clear. There is two sets of money with oil and oil blocks. The first set of money is the money they pay you to come and explore, which, by the way, we ate. We ate as a country. For Ngamia 1, Ngamia 2, Ngamia 3, in Turkana, that money is in our stomachs as we speak as a nation. Okay? Somalia sold those oil blocks. Farmajo's company, these things are in public record. Okay? Farmajo's company was used to sell these oil blocks secretly. They've already been sold. What they're trying to do is to find a legal justification for it. Those bad days in some slums where you would be walking with your shoes and a thug is selling them while you're walking. That is what is happening.
The Maritime map is on the screen. I don't know. I've also sent it to OJWANG. I don't know which comments he'll have to make. But meanwhile, as we are waiting for you guys to internalize the map, including Dr. OJWANG, before he gives his rebuttal, because I know he'll have a lot of it. Minor, you've been listening to this gentleman.
Yes.
I don't know if you have any feedback to make.
First of all, I'd like to correct BICHACHE. There's nothing wrong with criticizing our foreign policy. It is not terrorism to call criticism of our foreign policy.
Terrorism is when you say your country can't produce toilet paper.
Well, if you were in the US, BICHACHE, would you call Joe Biden?
BICHACHE, he just told OJWANG he should have let you speak. So he should also let Minor speak.
He must apologize.
Oh, okay.
Would you call Joe Biden a terrorist for disagreeing with the Republicans' foreign policy? This is how political debates are run.
I am talking about the issue of you saying Kenya does not produce toilet paper.
We all know it's a common fact that Kenya produces toilet paper.
As a
So
matter
let's
of
move
fact,
to the
we
debate.
import toilet paper from more than 5 countries. But be that as it may,
All right, let's move from toilet paper.
yeah.
We are not in a toilet now.
Be that as
We're
it
in a
may,
studio.
Toilet paper.
OJWANG says we produce our own toilet paper. Okay, now let's move. The consensus is out here. All right, let's move by now.
all right. But we should also try to avoid an anti-intellectual attitude when it comes to matters as serious as our foreign policy. And as much as this is an issue that will be dealt with by whichever president succeeds Uhuru Kenyatta, we also need to be factual about this and be consistent, because we cannot say that it's good. The UN is a good thing when we chair the Security Council, but a bad thing when the court rules against us. We need to be more strategic with our diplomacy and even with our legal preparations for these cases. And in fact, it is true that if you look at territorial waters south of the Kenya-Tanzania border, they tend to go horizontally. I don't know whether it's a matter of the angle of the border itself, but for some reason they are horizontal beneath the Kenya-Tanzania border, but with the Kenya-Somalia one, there's something else going on there. So we need to find out more details about what exactly is behind this push. I'd also like to agree with OJWANG that we need to do as much as we can as a country to make sure that our diplomacy works. Because at the end of the day, we cannot afford conflicts, especially at a time like this. We are in a serious debt crisis. Somalia itself can't, hold its water economically. So this could be a breeding ground for conflict with different powers out there. And this is why it's important for us to rise above the politics of the day. Not everything is about Uhuru Kenyatta when we talk about how our country could improve. We have to be a self-correcting nation. Otherwise, we'll be stuck making the same mistakes over and over again.
Okay, OJWANG, have you seen the map? Can we interrogate it?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Let's have the map back on the screen now.
You see, we have a principle in international law called uti possidetis.
Uti?
Uti possidetis
Okay.
is a principle of international law which provides that newly formed sovereign states should retain their internal borders, that their proceeding dependent area had before independence. That is, and Mark alluded to the same, I believe, when he was saying when we fought the Shifters War, we were actually protecting usi possidetis principle, which is an entrenched principle, that there were a lot of issues internally. The maps were drawn, some Somalis found themselves in Kenya side, some your grandfather in the Somali side, some Tanzanians found themselves, some Luos in Sirare found themselves. You are here, your uncle is on the other side. So it's a colonial mess. And you go to Biafra War and all that. You find that Africa inherited a map and they were drawn. Remember in 84, where Africa was divided as a birthday cake. So those maps were drawn without a lot of rigor. And so one of the problems that we have inherited is the problem of colonization. It's not so much a Somali problem or a Kenya problem. It's simply a hand-me-down problem. That it is a colonial problem, or now a colonial solution for a colonial problem. And so out of that, utis possidetis as a principle of international law came, that we know it is messed up, guys, but when we get into fixing it for it to make sense, we'll get into a bigger mess. Therefore, as things are when you got independence, what was called Kenya is Kenya. Whether Uganda should come up to Naivasha, which if you look at some maps it does, and Museveni was bringing it, the principle is saying no. We will mess things up. If we move things around again, it will be chaotic. So that border, whether fair and unfair, it remains stuck. We are not going to be redrawing borders. So the idea that you have more coastline, and indeed Somalia have more coastline, So please let me have this. That is a moral issue, and I think Abrahamic faith will hear it, but it's not a legal issue, because in legal issue, what I have. The court solves when there is disputed land. It does not come and say, surely with all fairness, you have a lot. It is not about redrawing the map. The court, and maybe that is what we need to also accept, that courts are limited to the area in dispute. And so it cannot say, since I've checked your map, Somali, and what are you doing, by the way, with this region? Unless BICHACHE is saying we now claim adverse possession, that even if maybe it is disputed because we have occupied it, which is another way of owning land. We have occupied it, we are using it, you have not complained for so long. Those Somali will say, well, you have not gone to war, but that is simply not a requirement to say it is my territory. But once in a while, I've been raising an issue that Kenya, you are in my territory. But secondly, you know, if you look at even this so-called small countries, somebody gave an analogy of a crab, which the father beat the hell out of it because it was walking sideways, and told him, walk straight. And after beating the small crab 10 times, the small crab said, but Dad, I'm just walking the way you are walking. Kenya cannot talk of dependent countries while we know where Kenya is. Okay. And you see, as an international citizen, I'm not going to just talk of, yeah, Team Kenya, I think I can do better as a Kenyan, but by really looking at the essence of what is this I'm shouting about. So I'm not simply going to, hey, are you a Kenyan or not? I'm not going to narrow the debate so narrow. Do you think people should tell us what to do or not? Yet we have an opportunity to professionalize our foreign policy. We don't do it. We have universities that are offering international relations like USAID, but the hiring and the recruitment to foreign office and to diplomacy is based on political patronage. And we must say that whether it is whether who is the president, that you cannot appoint people on this Somali issue. I have been called, and I can almost hear the tune that BICHACHE is saying. These are Kagwanja notes that BICHACHE is spewing here. I have met with him in Ukumbi. This is word-to-word Kagwanja notes that BICHACHE is now.
Dr. Duncan Ojwang, Dr. Duncan Ojwang, I would have you know that I'm a professional in my own right. And I will have you know, and I'll have you know, that my term is communication strategist, okay? I do not work for Kagwanja, okay? And I will tell you for free, because you need to be schooled on what is really happening and not discuss and malign people's names. Number one, I have been involved in the thinking and the production of what Kenya should do, okay? So I am not here reading someone's notes. Do I look like I have notes? I don't need notes, my friend. I know these things off head. The same way you know that Latin term, I know Somali saying that.
I've even forgotten the term. What was it saying?
I don't need to be told by Kagwanja.
Let me reclaim or what I'm saying. I have met with Professor Kagwanja in Ukumbi. I have met on this Somali issue. We have produced some communique to the Foreign Affairs Minister. And coincidentally, his thinking is so much aligned to yours. Whether he's copying you and
so was that a compliment or
it's a compliment? It's just similarity. And if he's being a copycat, he's copying from a good cat. Kagwanja is a very what I'm saying, I'm saying
BICHACHE will kill you. All right, that's it.
Have called me, no, not as a state, but as a So I cannot come here to. He has been the only one who has offered the channels with frustration as Kenyans to try save and advise foreign affairs policy. And so I'm not alluding anything. I'm saying that in under Isukumbi we have met. We were with Farah Malim. We were with somebody from USIU. And we met like 3 times. We wrote papers. And in that meeting, we even had somebody from military strategy who is doing his PhD. And Kagwanja is actually the supervisor. He's a professor in this then. But I'm just saying that his argument were around the national interest, and that national interest must be protected at whatever cost, and we agreed. But even there, we admitted that the Kenya policy that we have approached was the conflict policy, that we assume these people will be vulnerable and will be fighting and will be the bigger brother going to bring peace. But we don't have post-peace strategy where we now look at them as allies. And that is why we found ourselves in most cases simply saying, you know what, can you remember how much I have helped you? Can you remember how much I've helped you? And so by the time these other countries are offering them things, we are not offering anything. We are simply saying, hey, remember how much I've been on your side. And probably we need to tweak our strategy. That to me is not an act of terrorism, but an act of benevolence and patriotism to your country. As I finish, I think that, and so I think I've clarified the similarity that there were 2 schools of thought, and that is what I was drawing as the professor's idea. And I think BICHACHE should be flattered. I'm not saying you are not an expert. I'm simply saying that you align to that school of thought and a very powerful authority on the same. And I'm not at any time besmirching or alluding anything beyond that. But again, I'm simply saying that, you know, this is the time that we are talking of a lot of, you know, whatever happened locally also affect internationally. When people feel excluded internally, then they don't become our best diplomats out there. You cannot torture somebody inside or make them feel less wanted, but think they will be carrying a banner protecting you outside. There is a little bit of how we have been a little bit careless with our citizens of Somali ancestry, and they will have been very much important and with deeper understanding and meaning on this, because and that is the part that we critique what Kenya has been doing, and we have even advised the same in serious conferences that how about instead of sending somebody who come from not the borders, how about if Majo had people from his clan who are Kenyans, who are patriotic, and we don't disdain them. This thing of when you speak truth to power or you give reasonable doubt, then we simply ask, do you really love your country? As if BICHACHE is the one working with the marking scheme of what love to Kenya is, or he has become Kenya, and he can simply say, OJWANG, I have tested you and I found you wanting. This is how much you love Kenya. Surely that is arrogant. That is, I'm not going to allow that. Because I love, and I don't need to be my defense.
Please let me speak.
All right. Okay, Mark.
Let me tell you, I have one line and one line only. If you say something that is untrue about Kenya, it is unpatriotic. If you say Kenya does not produce toilet papers, saying that we are such a miserable country that we cannot afford to make things to make ourselves clean, I have a problem with you because it is not true. That is not true, and I will not allow it. I will never allow it. But if you say Kenya did not handle the matter legally correctly, I will not fault you for that because it is your opinion. There are people who do feel that Kenya did not field enough evidence and in time at the court. I have not said there's anything wrong with that. Dr. OJWANG is fully within his right and his purview to say that Kenya needs to get better diplomats. And perhaps if we did, we would not be in this mess. But to say that Kenya does not produce toilet papers, That is unpatriotic.
We already moved from the
What
toilet
industry
paper.
is doing. You understand? So that is my issue. So if you're going to lie about my country, my friend, my patriotism will not allow you to do so. It is better you say something that has conjecture and nuance that I cannot argue about. But to say Kenya does not produce furniture or does not produce toilet paper, no. That is self-defacing, which I call terrorism, because terrorism is supposed to paint your
All right.
country in a bad light.
Okay.
That one I will never.
Finally, gentlemen, very quickly, and then we move to one last topic. The next topic would be about the move by the parliament to return the law within the constitution to a point where the president can fire his deputy, apparently in a move to avoid a situation where we have right now. Like the president Uhuru Kenyatta is feeling like firing his deputy, but the constitution says, no, bro, you can't do this. That would be the following topic. But now, what are the consequences in the international platform? The ruling by ICJ and Kenya probably going ahead and ignoring the ruling. What are the consequences on the international platform, on the position of allies, who lies where? And also look at the point where our armies have been in Somalia for over 10 years right now, fighting under AMISOM. We've struggled with terrorist threats and all that. I mean, are we in a place that we can actually want to haggle these statements of we are going to fight for territories, Somalia only understands gun works and all that? Are we in that position? What is the implication as well on the international platform? I'll start with you, Bichache, because the mic was on your mouth.
My view, sir.
Okay.
I think
Okay, John.
I might duck out at some point.
No, don't duck out before you finish, because the following topic is the last topic.
I appreciate Bichache lending us equal citizenship. Like himself. That is so generous of him.
Very magnanimous.
Very, yeah. I saw some random citizens in the U.S. Questioning whether Obama was loyal to America, yet he was the president of the state. So there is a way that some people have a marking scheme that some don't have. There's othering that is coming out. There is Kenyans and then there's the othering. No wonder we have been left with Migingo to fund for ourselves. But I don't know even to what extent that Somali border, because there is a conspiracy theory that who is who have already divided that block. So as they even question Somali selling it, we have secret Kenyans who have already also negotiated, and that will be not a surprise. That will be a Kenyan thing.
Yeah.
So to what extent is it in Kenyans' interest, or somebody have negotiated, just like in the oil of Turkana? By the time we were seeing Talos and whatever, somebody had already divided those blocks and have bought those land and have done
the holes, the ngamias.
Yeah, that is the problem with the personalization of power. That it becomes me and my friends eating, which is not totally bad. But if you are only the one eating and not the country, then you come and question a poor mortal like me, whose job is simply to wake up and go teach in class and get peanut, whether I'm loyal. Yet somebody who is the head of state has money abroad and he has not questioned whether these are things that drive me to suicidal thoughts.
No, don't commit suicide, boy. Don't die, Daktari. At least not until you leave the.
My loyalty can be questioned for questioning how we have handled Somali.
No. I have no problem with your loyalty.
Bichache, the mic will come to you.
So then I've been vindicated. I am a Kenyan. Bichache have been magnanimous with me. I can talk as a Kenyan. Finally, I think that when we look at our situation, let us not exaggerate our strength. In the law of war, the general says that, don't start war until you have assembled all your weapons. Otherwise, your enemy can render you flat. I agree with Bichache that the most complicated thing, and that is why to me I'm scared of this situation, is that it will be a proxy war. Even Famajo himself is said to be a dual citizen. And so when you think you're negotiating with the president, there's somebody behind him that is really the actual person calling the shots. And that becomes very dangerous because there is the proxy. When proxy war becomes so hard to settle, it is a war within a war. And you don't know whom to bring to the table because somebody is being advised in other places. Finally, I think in your topic of loyalty to deputy president, I know again, Bichachi will give us a few of lines from Machiavelli and the Prince, but I want to tell him that we are in a democratic state and 2010 constitution, where actually when we came with the 2010 constitution, we wanted to bring political hygiene. We were tired of a country where the boogeyman was the executive presidency. And all those came as a way of check and balance. Whether it is devolution, come with 47 governments and not just one headed by the president, whether it is a deputy president who cannot be fired for a song, before they'd been fired even for refusing to render their spouse to head of state to dance with in a Christmas Eve event. We wanted a country where leaders are not the ones served, but the people are the ones served. No wonder our constitution talk of sovereignty belongs to the people. So the Machiavellian line of there is only one boss works well, but the boss here, let me tell you, in this pyramid is the Kenyans, not the excellence. The boss here are the people. And if it's about service, it's not about kubwa, it's not about who has disagreed with me. Then to some extent, I'll be the first one to admit that it will be a very good thing if you had a deputy whom you can work with. That will be the ideal. But unlike other time, you see, when Jaramogi had no legal recourse and had to resign because his life was very miserable, though he's the one who actually brought Kenyatta to presidency. So this idea of, we have seen the Kalonzo, the Mudavadi deputy president, where you have simply, you slept, you woke up and you found yourself the president because it was announced on the radio or TV that you are one. But we have also seen deputy president who have been almost core presidency, where Jaramogi get Kenyatta from prison and declare him the president and say, I'll be your deputy. You could not say that he made him, therefore he can destroy him. Though because there was no legal protection, Jaramogi decided to resign. The same to right now, the situation between deputy president and the president. You cannot say, if you look at our constitution, if you are running for presidency, as we are running, when it comes to election, and if your deputy dies, that election is postponed. They are joined at the hip. There is no flower girl. There is the presidency that was created. People might look at the Machiavellian, there is only one boss, and there need to be one boss, and there need to be order. But the general principle are these people are not serving themselves; they are serving Kenya. So, in my view, when we contemplate, and that is probably the thinking that was in BBI. The president has remained a shell. Mutunga was in our show where he was saying, the president told him, do you mean I'm a footnote? He told him, then you're starting to understand the 2010 constitution. We didn't want a powerful president. The thinking of even the BBI and the thinking now is, let us make presidency strong. Let us have him appoint prime minister who can represent him in the parliament. Let us have him appoint the judiciary ombudsman. So he has one foot in the judiciary. That thinking of BBI, I can tell you, is even illegal. Because the court talked of the basic structure. So unless they call the Constituent Assembly and the primary power, and call Kenyans again to bomb us and say, Kenyans, we don't like this. We don't like how we have handled the presidency. Contemplating it right now will simply not help. Let people be and live. Pick your deputy president that you can work with. Pick one that you know that can speak truth and can advance your cause. I'm looking at a situation where if you cannot work with your deputy president, why can't we have the whole government go home? Why do we only talk of deputy president must go home? Why not the president? Because you are the one who cannot work with your deputy. As your deputy cannot work with you. Why do we assume it's the deputy who should go? Why not everybody should go and we clean the slate?
Yes, we disband all government.
Thank you.
All right. Mark Bichache.
Hi, Gerald, are you on or you disappeared?
We are on. We are very on. Are you the one who disappeared? Umekuwa ukisikia Ojwang? Hello?
Yeah, I couldn't hear you. What did you say?
Did you hear Ojwang?
Your voice is breaking. I don't know whether it's my network or yours.
Maybe akanauliza ulisikia Ojwang?
Yeah, I heard Ojwang very well.
Okay, all right. It's your time now.
All right. Let me say this clearly. That number one, Dr. Ojwang, though he has left. You know, there's
listening.
two sides to this argument. There is the argument of the side that the deputy president should not resign because he's been elected and as such he should stay there, which is what Ojwang is pushing. And then there's the side that says since it is the president who's failed to work in his deputy, he should resign. And that is very interesting to me because...
Do you believe the law should be reverted back? That the president can fire his deputy?
And let me build up to this. You see, right now I am on a show that is Gerald Bichach's show. If I think Gerald Bichach does not do a good job with his show, then the only thing that I can do is withdraw myself from the show. Is this correct?
Correct.
Yeah? So now, here's the thing. In any form of leadership, it is the deputy to condescend to his boss. It is not his boss to condescend to his deputy.
Okay.
That is not what the Constitution envisioned, and it can never be how anything is led. If Jesus today began to rebel against God in heaven, I assure you there will be no heaven because the chaos that would ensue would be crazy. We must understand that the first is followed by the second and not the second followed by the first. Whenever you see the tail wagging the dog, then you know madness has descended upon the earth. So first and foremost, in principles of leadership, it is always the first to be followed and not the second to be followed. Now, that is a statement of fact. Now, number two, is it good for the country to have a deputy president who does not want to listen to his boss? Of course not. And the problem is this precedent being set is in the imagination that two people do not disagree. They disagree all the time. I'll give you an example of Mike Pence and Donald J. Trump and the events leading to January 6th of this year. Donald Trump clearly wanted to have the state overthrow, the Senate overthrow the election of Biden and wanted his deputy to do so. Now his deputy declined to do so, followed the law, but came out smelling like a rose because he never outwardly opposed his president, even though his president was constitutionally, fundamentally wrong in his assertion. Now, I'm not saying that we should follow the route of Trump. I'm saying what is the role of a deputy. If you want to even go the biblical route, if your father Noah is laying naked and you are his deputy, his son, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to cover the nakedness, not go announcing it to everyone. This is simple culture. And I know we like to argue about things that we would never allow our children to do to us, we'd never allow ourselves to do to our fathers, but because it is politically expedient, we want to pretend that we want to live in a country where a deputy president can basically flip the bird and throw the finger to the president, and we want to act as though that is the constitution we imagine. The reason why we imagined in our constitution that these two fellas would run on a joint ticket is that they would agree and solve their issues within themselves. Look at, for example, Theresa May, and I've used this example many times. When she was trying to handle Brexit, she had a number of ministers whom she had appointed who did not agree with her at all. And what did they do? They said, where you want to go, we do not agree with you, we've stepped away. But my problem is this: we have a deputy president who sits in cabinet. Cabinet runs by a principle called shared responsibility. You cannot sit in cabinet as a minister or as the president or as anyone and walk out of cabinet and talk against what you agreed in cabinet. It is wrong. It does not work. A house divided amongst itself cannot stand. So unless the deputy president wants to say that the constitution imagined him holding daily sermons, going against the very cabinet he sits in, and that is the constitution we want to support, I am sorry, that is not what the constitution envisioned. Okay? And I will never stand behind any deputy, whether it's a deputy in your house manager, your children, who decides to be a rebel in the house. You cannot say that you stand for them. It is impossible. So what is the solution? The solution is this. Number one, we must remind the deputy president that if he were to become president, he will face the exact same problem because he has created a monster. Number two, the BBI did not seek to create a stronger presidency. Otherwise, you would not devolve more funds. Strength is in money and in military. Less money means less strength. There is no place where you get less money and more strength. This is a talking point that people try to say all the time that does not make sense. But that's besides the point. The ability to hire and fire a prime minister and even a deputy president for that matter is not about how much power a president has. We have to ask ourselves that, and I want you to imagine that if William Ruto was allowed to carry out his agenda, which is basically to undermine the president at every step, and Raila Odinga did not have the magnanimity to step in and support the president, would we have a country today? The truth of the matter is, Uhuru would have been impeached and this country would have been in chaos. Okay? So there is a case to be made for a united presidency. And I do not see why it is wrong for us as a country to ask and demand, not of Uhuru Kenyatta, but of presidents also following. Can we see a united front? You cannot sit in one cabinet, have one meeting, make one agreement, and then you walk out and go against it. It cannot work. Even God, Jesus himself said, a house divided against itself cannot stand. So this is not about constitution. It's not about very many things. We deserve and need a leadership that is united in purpose. It is a common thing. It is common in your home. It is common in our traditions. We cannot hide behind a constitution that because you are elected in, that now allows you to act all manner of ways, and then we are supposed to sit there and accept. No, especially when you sit in cabinet. That's what hurts me the most, that you sit where these decisions are made. You sit where the decisions are made to implement 16% of VAT on fuel. You know, you come out of cabinet to flip the bird on the same cabinet. No, that is not acceptable.
All right, David.
It's like agreeing at night with your wife that you're transferring your child from one school to another. Then she wakes up and says, Gerald amesema mwende shule ingine mbaya. Mimi nilikuwa nataka mwende mzuri. Your house will not stand.
David.
On this issue of the deputy president,
should we change the constitution?
No, I don't believe so, because I think the issue here is about tenure of office. What's the point of tenure of office? Tenure of office allows one the freedom to do one's job without the fear of dismissal, without the threat of dismissal. And this is important because this allows for one to have integrity in their job, for one to have freedom of speech and speaking truth to power. And this is nothing new, because here in Kenya we have academicians who have tenure of office, and in that role they need to speak their mind. The Auditor General also has tenure of office, so they're not loyal to a president or to the government of the day. They're loyal to the processes of integrity when it comes to running our country. And the Constitution in its wisdom granted that same tenure of office to the Deputy President, who can now not be fired by the President at will. Now, when people say that the Deputy President is opposing the President's agenda, the question is, who is exercising power in this country? It's we, the citizens, who have donated our power to these leaders to do our bidding. So when the Deputy President comes out and says that we need to look at the price of milk, we need to look at the price of coffee, the people go and endorse that point of view. The Deputy President, in every poll that's being done today, has the backing of the majority of Kenyans. And if you look at different countries, BICHACHE has mentioned Mike Pence and Donald Trump. I'd like to point out that even after Mike Pence's loyalty for all 4 years, regardless of what was going on, at the end of the day, Donald Trump threw him under the bus. And there's some who would even argue that Mike Pence's life was in danger on January 6th because of Trump's statements regarding him. And if we look at South Africa, no other person than Nelson Mandela was also having conflict with his deputy, Thabo Mbeki. In fact, at some point, during the lame dark years of Nelson Mandela's reign, towards the end of his term, Thabo Mbeki wouldn't even pick up his calls. So let's have some perspective on this matter and stop demonizing where we have political opponents. And finally, I'd like to say that we need to stop this slide into authoritarianism, where anybody disagreeing with those in power is necessarily wrong or being called a terrorist if you're associating with Turkish investors or when you go and criticize our foreign policy. We need to have freedom of thought and also maintain
Okay, Ojwang, I'll pull you.
And also prevent an anti-intellectual strain in Kenya in order to please our political masters of the day.
Right.
Just wait.
Okay.
Wait. I have a question.
Okay.
So you want to tell me that a guy who has known terrorist links, which Kenya did not establish, it was established by the Turkish government, a fellow whose investment we can't trace, 15 billions which Equity Bank says did not happen. When we talk about that, we are pushing an agenda. My friend, you know, you might try to paint us with large brush strokes for not liking the candidate you like, but please restrict yourself to the truth. We are not the ones who went on behalf of the Turkish fellow to be involved with those terrorists. It is not us who, by the way, said that 15 billion shillings was made through a phone call. We are not Equity Bank who then denied those things. You know, let us be clear. And secondly, you know, the question you are asking and the question that is being asked is this. The Constitution of Kenya 2010 says the role of the deputy president is to deputize. Now, I don't know whether you have a dictionary there, but I'm sure you have Dr. Google, okay? If you Google and you look for the term to deputize, and the person who's supposed to be doing deputizing is not deputizing, are they fulfilling their constitutional mandate? The fact is they are not. It is not, listen, and I keep telling this to people, please stop looking at this issue in terms of Guru versus William. If we continue down this trajectory where we've got a president and a deputy, a governor and a deputy, who do not agree, it will be hell for us to pay donated power or not. And the principle is clear, my friend. I would really like for you to have someone in your house who does what William does every day to your house. You see whether it will stand. You know, these things, it's not political. Listen, I don't have a candidate in 2022, but I'm telling you, I will never stand for a political system where we have a deputy and a president who are constantly squabbling. It is a problem we have to solve.
All right.
You know, and we cannot then, because we have sight, try to defend things like the Turkish investor. It is indefensible. It is simply indefensible. Simply because we have political sides. No. There is no way we can stand here, talk to the public and say it is okay to bring a foreigner with funny money to go to Uganda, which the Uganda government denies, the bank denies. Do you know what? Let me tell you, today go read the report on Equity Bank and see how the investors are scared because of that kind of deal. It is not just about politics, my friend. We have a country to safeguard here. So in as much as I agree the president should not be allowed to fire the deputy president, but the converse of that is also true, that just because you have security of tenure, you should not use it to the detriment of the country. There are ways of solving these issues.
All right. Okay. Ojwang, finally, tukienda nyumbani.
Yeah. So very few comments. One, to remind BICHACHE that when all the Republicans were pushing for Mike Pence not to sit the delegates to declare that Biden has received the enough magical number, I believe 270.
Yes, 273.
To be the president. Mike Pence said, "I'm going to do my duty as the vice president." He went to the Senate. He counted the and was able to fit all the delegates and declare that the president is leading. This is when his president was at the tunnel, having people attack the Senate.
Simama Ojwang, ngoja kutembea kwanza. Simama kidogo. Malize.
The deputy Pence said, "I'm going to do my constitutional duty in America. I might not agree with the election, but I'm not going to even give those chance the president team that is trying to even attack the senator. As the deputy president, I have the duty to sit and count the delegates, and when they reach 270, do my democratic duty to declare a bill elected." He did it. What is more bold and gutsy than that? What is more disloyal, if we are using that word, than that? But he rather have obeyed the Constitution and his conscience than to follow Trump the weird way of disputing the election while it is clear that Biden has been elected. And he did it with grace, he did it with pomp, and he did it with unparalleled magnanimity. In broad daylight, the president is there having his people attack the Senate. Mike Pence is here declaring, after sitting the delegates from each state, that Biden is the next president. To me, that is the best example when we have not the rule of man, but rule of law. Rule of law is about restraining everybody. He who is only restrained by themselves are not restrained at all. Rule of law means even that president is restrained and can only say things as delegated by the people and on behalf of the people. And so the essence of democracy, why do we even come for revolution? Is that we are going to obey you so long as. I think much of the disagreement with the president, I'm not going to say that the deputy president have been it's so much the principled issue, though some might be on principle. It might have been that somebody wants legacy and to shed things this way and control their succession. And somebody also wants a chance and insist on that chance to run. But Mike Pence and Biden and Trump will be the worst example that the church can come with of the loyalty. And then secondly, there's this tendency among Kenya of analogizing politics with marriage, analogizing politics with children and father nakedness. I mean, this is the biggest corruption that the church is inventing in broad daylight. It has denigrated the institution of family. We know this is politics, and politics is about the people. But we come with very soft social example. This is not a family. This is not about a father and a child seeing each other naked. This is about two people who are sworn in to serve Kenyans. So the more we come with this soft example, you never will bibi yako mukikosana watoto wanajua. This is the serious thing that I find that if there is impunity in this country, the churches should be sent to the gallows for inventing the most silliest example in terms of denigrating our constitutional principle to marriages, to family. In a family, the care and the mode of operation is love.
Okay.
The deputy president and the president, the mode of operation is not love, it's duty to the people.
I think they are straight. I believe they are straight, gentlemen.
These are parallel examples, but they sound sweet. They are swaying emotion and passion and praxis, but they are unconstitutional example. The Constitution do not analogize the president and deputy president to a marriage, to a father, to a child. It is to serve the people.
All right.
Finally, as I finish, I think
as
that,
we go,
at the end of the day, BICHACHE have called on us to rise beyond partisan politics.
yes, And I think that's
I
not
think
really,
we
that's
need to
powerful.
challenge ourselves to that, and I'm challenged that, to be honest, let us be Kenyans first. Let us not push wheelbarrow to an extent that we cannot see the truth on the other side. Neither should we move to peace, that we don't see the politics and machination on that side.
We eat a lot of oranges until we can't see ahead.
Yeah, let us stay in the middle. Let us be fair, and so I agree with BICHACHE that, you know what, when you call us as commentators, let me not be so. Let me not be partisan. Let us talk and admit that usually the truth is in the middle, and there is no side that has monopoly. President have very good reasons why he has disagreed with the deputy. The deputy have good reasons why they have disagreed. At the end of the day, these two leaders will be okay. But will Kenya be okay? So let us support and root for Team Kenya as BICHACHE has urged us. Thank you.
All right, and I'm saying someone has made a statement here that if that's how you want to change the constitution, if you are changing it for someone, it's better that we know that the person that you could be changing it for, which is William Ruto now at this point, will not be deputy president again. So it's someone else who will have to suffer the consequences. But I think, again, the agenda of the 2010 constitution was to sanitize our politics. And I think if we get back to the mark, then we're not moving as a country. Maybe we need to, these guys, leaders need to have an honest conversation, because most of these conflicts, most of the time, they resolve it in a corner. They start fighting, then you hear a few months to election, they have fixed it. So I think we need to sanitize the politicians themselves. The constitution is not the problem. The problem is the people who keep fighting. Kenyans, we don't have a problem with each other. We don't have a problem with the deputy president, the president, or whatever it is. They have a problem with each other. It doesn't mean that because they have a problem with each other, then the whole country should have a problem with them, or should have a problem with themselves as a nation. So we need to sanitize our politicians. We need to sanitize our politics, not the constitution. That's my thought, or that's my view. I don't know if BICHACHE will agree with me as he goes on, and Dan as well, if you'll agree with me. BICHACHE, I think the problem is not the constitution. The problem is the politicians.
And that's what I said. And the reason why I analogized families and things like that, because I must remind Dr. OJWANG that even in societal law, the basic structure of society is family. And they say charity begins at home. So to analogize the state with family is quite proper, actually, because we are all children of this state. And that said, the issue is this, and Kenya is purely an over-legislated jurisdiction. We've got laws for everything. But the problem is the laws are not written on our hearts. We give contracts, yes, to the lowest bidder, but those contracts are given, we keep the law, but we break the spirit of what the law was trying to achieve. So what needs to happen, in my view, and this is why, for me, it is critical for us to look at this thing beyond the person of Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, is got to really, really ask ourselves that when two people decide to be on a joint ticket, what did they jointly choose to do? And in doing so, did they really agree? Because I think this joint ticket idea, where we have a ticket because you have Kikuyus, I have Kambas, you have Luos, I have Kisis, and all of those things, is really where it begins to bite us. Because what happens, if you look at the negotiations in Germany today, when they're trying to form a coalition government, they're talking about ideas. The Greens are saying, we want you to do this to push the green agenda forward. The FDP is saying, this, we are a socialist movement. This is how we want it to go. And those are the negotiations. In Kenya, we negotiate, umekuja na Wakamba wangapi, Wajaluo wangapi, Wakisi wangapi, Wakikuyu wangapi, and that's what we negotiate. So when we start doing work, it is now just a bunch of Kalenjins, Kikuyus, and Kambas, and Kisis, and things like that, instead of ideas and ideologies competing for space. This is really where the problem is, and where the difficulty is. And until we get to that point, we can change this constitution 10 times, nothing will change.
Okay, asante sana. That's all my mark for coming in. Daniel, is the problem the politicians or the constitution?
I believe the problem is politicians, because the question on the deputy president, and even on whether we should look at Kenya as a family, the question is, who is the sovereign in Kenya? According to politicians and people like BICHACHE, the sovereign is the president. And that's why they put it as, this is a family where the father says this and nobody should disagree. If you look at Kenya as a family, then you're saying that the citizens, that the taxpayers are like children, to be seen and not heard. But the opposite is the case. We are the sovereign. and the so-called parents are here to do our agenda, not the other way around.
All right, so you are the parents, you are the sovereign. All right, it's been a pleasure having you gentlemen on the talk of this morning of Siasa Wednesday, the 13th of October 2021. I'll see you again. Bichache, thanks for coming. Daktari OJWANG, I think he has disappeared, but asante sana OJWANG for coming in as well. David, asante sana kwa kuja. Na nimeona pale pana UDA Secretary Youth Affairs is 63 years, bwana. Hey, what's going on? Anyway, I think the dream of young people is a mirage in this country. The more we talk about it, the farther it goes. So, I mean, UDA, I don't know if you'll have a time to cleanse yourself.
For us at this moment, because our party elections have not happened yet, what we're trying to do is build a party with strong structures, and for the time being, we're giving priority to merit when we're coming and bringing together people, because this is the time when.
So there is no younger person who had merit. Even you, David Minor, you don't have merit.
You see, at first, what we need to do is build party structures, because this is a long-term effort. We want UDA to become the strongest party in this country and the longest-lasting party in this country.
Do you think you could be the secretary for Youth Affairs?
Well, I believe anybody has the ability to do that, yeah. And very soon we'll be having our party elections, and at that point we will be well represented in the party as the youth.
Okay, for now, youth, semanga enda ukikauka. So, I mean, the other day, yesterday, Raila Odinga as well was in Nairobi University, and he told the chaps that, you know, guys, we'll make the government, and I'll give you 4 ministerial slots, and also the 6,000 that is coming in. I mean, it's a beautiful time to be a young person. But I hope these things were giving us during campaign time. If the 6,000 they're giving us during campaign time, the ministerial slots they're giving us now, even this one in UDA, we're giving leadership as the party exists. But until then, the young people will continue to be the ponies and the ponies on the chessboard. And until tomorrow, Diaspora Edition. Keep pondering. Vijana, kwani ni leo? Ama wanasema kwani ni kesho. Kwani ni kesho. Take care and see you tomorrow. This is a tackle that it ends now. Bye-bye.